Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So the Steam Deck OLED is finally back in stock, and normally I would say that would be good news, right? But this time, it came back with a pretty brutal price increase. The 512 gig Steam Deck OLED went from $549 to $789. 1 terabyte model went from $649 to $949. That is a $240 jump on that 512 model and a $300 jump on the 1 terabyte model. And honestly, that changes the whole conversation around the Steam Deck, because the Steam Deck was not just good because it was a handheld PC, it was good because it made PC gaming feel accessible at $399 for the original LCD model and even $549 for the OLED. So that pitch was pretty simple. You were getting that SteamOS, your Steam library, a great handheld experience, and you were not paying full gaming laptop money to get there, right? But at $789 and $949, the question becomes very different. Is the Steam Deck still the recommendation it used to be? And maybe the bigger question is, what does this tell us about the Steam machine, right? So here's the quick breakdown. The 512 gig OLED is now $789. That used to be $549. The 1 terabyte OLED is now $949. That was $649. So we're not talking about a small adjustment here. This is not 20 bucks. This is not 50 bucks, right? This is the Steam Deck moving into a completely different price class. And the reason that it feels just so weird is because the device itself did not suddenly become more powerful. It is still that same Steam Deck OLED, still a great screen, still SteamOS, still one of the best handheld gaming PCs that you can buy. But now the value argument is just way harder. Because at almost $950, people are not just comparing it to the old Steam Deck. They are basically comparing it to the ROG Ally X, the Lenovo Legion Go line, gaming laptops on sale, and even consoles like the PS5 Pro. That is a very different room to be standing in, right? Now, Valve's explanation is basically rising memory and storage costs, also broader global logistics, of course. So everything right now is going up in prices. You have TCGs going up in price. You have gas prices going up in price. And look, I'm not going to sit here and just act like it's all fake, right? This has been happening across the whole hardware market as well. RAM prices are up, storage prices are up. AI data centers are eating a huge amount of memory and storage supply. And also smaller hardware makers just don't have that same kind of leverage as companies that are shipping hundreds of millions of devices. So I get where the price changed, right? But I just do not think that it makes it feel good right now, because from the buyer's side, all that you basically see is the Steam Deck coming back at a much higher price, right? And that is a tough sell. So is the Steam Deck OLED still worth buying? My honest answer is this, guys. So it basically depends who you are. If you already wanted a Steam Deck specifically because of SteamOS, the trackpads, suspend and resume, Proton, and the overall console-like PC handheld experience, then it does make sense, right? It is still a really good device. The Steam Deck did not just suddenly become bad, but it did become harder to recommend at full price. So at $549, the 512 OLED was easy. At $789, you basically just have to think about it. And at $949, I would really just start looking around, guys. So used market, refurbished units, other handheld PCs, maybe even just waiting around, right? Because that old Steam Deck recommendation used to be just buy the deck, but now it's just more like make sure the deck is actually the right device for you. That is the big change, guys. And that is the part that I keep coming back to. So if the Steam Deck OLED had to jump this much just because of memory and storage costs, what does that mean for the Steam machine? Because in my last Steam machine price video, I said that it would be starting at around $800 to $1,000. You know, I thought that that was at least possible. And after actually seeing the Steam Deck price hike this much, that feels even more realistic to me. So maybe even conservative. So depending on the model, right? The Steam machine has much more going on, right? More power, more memory pressure, more storage expectations. And it's supposed to be a living room PC, not just a handheld. So if people were still hoping for $400 and $600, I don't know. I think this is a reality check, guys. I really would love to be wrong on this. You know, I would just love for Valve to come out and surprise everybody with a clear price. But this Steam Deck increase just makes it harder to believe. So my take on it is this, guys. The Steam Deck OLED is still good. SteamOS is still great. Valve has one of the best handheld experiences out there. But the value story just took a serious hit. At the old price, the Steam Deck just felt like the obvious entry point into PC gaming. So at this new price, it just starts to feel like a premium handheld that just has to fight much harder for your money, right? And for me, the bigger story here is not just the Steam Deck. It is what this just says about the next wave of Valve hardware, the Steam Machine, the Steam Frame, and whatever comes after. So if memory and storage costs are hitting the Steam Deck this hard, then the Steam Machine price just might be scarier than people want to admit. And I'm just hoping that I am wrong on this, I really am. But I just think that this could be the catalyst that just pushes that Steam Deck Machine price higher than a lot of people were expecting. So just let me know where you guys land on this. Would you guys still buy a Steam Deck OLED at $789 or $950? Would you go used or refurbished instead? And does this make you more worried about the Steam Machine price? I'm going to link that article down below if you guys want to have a read. I'm Vader, guys. Thanks for hanging out again, and I'll catch you all in the next one.